안녕하세요, Cloud입니다. Hey guys, Cloud here. Welcome back to another episode of Cloud's Korean Podcast. This episode is going to be relatively short, just a few minutes. I just want to talk about something I began noticing recently and started talking about. I noticed recently that in Korean culture, it's almost the opposite, this one aspect, than in the American culture or in the English language. As you know, culture is a lot of times integrated into the language. So what I noticed is that the Korean culture tends to start with very generic information and then slowly starts going from generic or general information to specific information. So for example, when you say your name, you start with your last name first. And then that's your family name. That's a bit more generic. And then you start going into more specific information, which is your specific name. If you look at how you would write an address, if you're sending something or just any random address, you would see that in the United States or in other countries, like in English, you would start with the street, the very specific. Then you would start zooming out into more generic information. So you would go from street to city to state. Sorry, I forgot how to write an address. To country. Whereas in Korean, you would actually end with your street. You would start with your country, your state. Well, I don't think they really have states, but like you get the point. City and then street address. So it's basically the opposite. So that's something I noticed. And then the other thing where I said it's not just the way they say it, not just like their culture, but it's like the culture is embedded into the language. So if you wanted to say you did some things like I do this 3 times a month. In English, you would start with the very specific information. 3 times, that's how many times I do it. Then you would go generic information. The larger time period in a month or in a year or etc. Whereas in Korean, you would actually do the opposite. You'd say 한 달에. So in 1 month, I do it 3 times. Or 한 달에, 5 times or whatever it is. But, 일주일에, kind of like that. You always start with the time period, the generic time period, and then you go specifically how many times you do it. 한 번, 두 번, 세 번, etc. So that's just something I noticed and was talking to one of my Korean friends about, and just wanted to share with you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed.